politics. So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is your opportunity. This is your place where you can ask all your questions about politics. You don't got to worry about getting judged or roasted or debated or any of those extremely uncomfortable things that can happen when you ask people questions about politics. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for not knowing things about politics. What's up, JP? Good to see you. Sorry, the last 24 hours I've had no news. Yeah, for real. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. Everybody is welcome here, whether they are Republican, Democrat, something in between, something on the outskirts. It does not matter how if we differ politically. If you're asking a question in good faith, you will be treated with respect and allowed to stay. Error 404 chat says, "Are you going to ban people with questions you don't like?" Error, do you not remember you were here a little while ago and you were asking all sorts of questions that we didn't like and you were not banned? Error says Democrats love to cancel and ban speech they don't like. What are you doing, man? Are you trying to start a fight? Or are you just tell you what? If you try to start a fight, you're out of here. If you just ask questions in good faith, you can stay. Them's the rules. Error. So, this is what I get for engaging with people in good faith. They fucking call me a cuck on Twitch after I just let you stay on my live stream. Andrew J. Weber says, "Why does Mamdani promise to take over Greenland when we know this is realistic?" That's a really good question. I think any politician who threatens to take over Greenland, whether it's Trump or Mamdani, I found that is totally invalidating. Error says, "Look at Berkeley the other night, Talking Point USA events. Yeah, people were protesting. Do you not think that protests are okay?" Error. Jack says, "Who is your mayor and what are your thoughts on him?" You know what? I don't have any specific thoughts about my mayor, Jack. I'm so sorry. I wish that I had more information for you. But because the place that I live is solidly blue, I have the luxury of not having to worry about what my mayor and governor are doing as much. Andrew says, "Unlike Jared, I do not operate in good faith." That is, I knew that, Andrew. I very much really did. Error says, "Why do Democrats call Trump a fascist and vote for a commie in New York?" Well, Mamdani is not a communist. Error. He's a democratic socialist, and there is a difference. And also, fascism is worse than communism. I think that is like, I think that's a totally safe opinion to have. Error says, "Aren't communists biggest violators of fascism?" No, if they're fascist, they are by definition not communist. Already, Led says, "Do you think the American dream is dead?" I'd say it's on life support, but we can revive it. It is not fully dead. Jack says, "Does socialism work?" Well, let me answer your question with a question, Jack. Does the army work? Do fire departments work? Does the post office work? Those are examples of socialism working. V Triggered says, "Hey Jared, do you think if NYC thrives under Mamdani, it could change the perception of socialism?" Potentially. We have to remember that we are not dealing in a world that rewards accurate data. We are living in a world where if you can convince a majority of people that something that happened didn't happen, then it essentially did not happen. So there is going to be a massive campaign by the billionaire class, mostly in the shadows, to try to discredit Mamdani, to try to make it seem like he is failing. Every mistake that he makes is going to be overhyped. Every success that he has is going to be underhyped and drowned out in a sea of bullshit. Alrighty. Error says progressive liberal is just another term for socialist communists. Socialism is communist light, let's be honest. No. No, error chat. I do not agree to that. Can you just be cool for a second, error chat? Could you just like ask a question without, you know, doing all of this shit that you're doing? Because you're trying my patience, and I'm gonna have to boot you if you keep on doing this. Falling Box says many on the right are waking up to Trump not keeping his promises. How can populists unite? The information environment and the billionaire class are going to try to keep people fighting amongst themselves. Falling Box, and the only way that we can fight that is by being the messengers of uniting the economic populists. And so we have to do it. You and I have to do it, Falling Box. Shiny Fly Trap, because I found something I like from the administration, specifically Melania's emphasis on foster care. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Melania doing anything. I like the fact that they're killing the penny. I got no problem with that. Dan Blackwork says, in America, first you get the socialism, then you get the communism, then you get the wee man. Mandy Kimball Parkin says, Trump is going to be impeached now because of the email that was released, right? I don't trust the Republican Party to impeach Trump no matter what he does. He could kill all of their families and they still wouldn't. Let's see here. That's pretty funny, JP. Alrighty. Juniper says, economic populist, very socialist of you. I mean, I suppose if we're just going to throw, 10 grand words around like that. Jack says, what other country has trans rights that America should follow in their footsteps? That's a really good question, Jack. I honestly don't know what the state of trans rights around the globe is. Shiny Flytrap says, they're already saying that the emails prove his innocence. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Dan Blackburn says, anyone else morbidly laughing at these people doing shady dealings via their Gmail accounts? I mean, yeah, don't take notes on a criminal conspiracy. Don't email your friend who's a PDF file about how you guys do PDF file shit together. B.S. Arnold says, if Mondani fails due to his own policies, will Dem socialist as an idea take a huge hit? Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a political philosophy being bad and a person doing a bad job of enacting that political philosophy. So, we are seeing very capable capitalists doing what capitalists do. And so we can say, like, capitalism is working, but it's just doing really bad things. If Mamdani is able to accomplish his goals, then, and we see those goals. If Mamdani is able to accomplish his goals, then he will have done democratic socialism good. If those things that he does end up causing a lot of pain, then we will say, okay, democratic socialism has some issues with it. Alrighty, Error says, you're brain dead. You spelled your wrong if you don't think socialism and communism are related. They're definitely related, but again, you need to take down the rhetoric. Error. Don't say you're brain dead if you don't think socialism and communism are related. Have some fucking humility and think and ask instead, do you consider socialism and communism related? Stop name calling. Stop assuming that everybody's an idiot except for you, or I'm going to boot you. Error. These are the rules. All right. Observing the Madness says communism isn't fascist. It's different things. That is accurate. John868 says, are Democrats on the fellow with the island list? There most likely are some, but I do not know who or how many. Right, Mike Robinus says, why do they lie about the war on drugs and launder hundreds of billions in UA? I don't know what you're referring to there, Mike. B.S. Arnold says, but do you think leftists will blame Democratic socialist ideas or say that Mamdani implemented them wrong? I think it depends, Intrazino says, how do you feel about having 2 10-year Senate terms instead of our current arrangements? I like 6 years. I like the variety. House people get 2 years, presidents get 4 years, senators get 6 years. But I definitely think we could have some term limits on, representatives, senators, and Supreme Court justices. Error chat says, JP started the name calling. Why did you laugh when he did it? Well, there's an expression, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I will say to everybody on my chat, don't call each other names. All right? But Error, don't act like you are some poor fucking victim here. Like you haven't been throwing stones left and right since you've been in my chat, guy. Ready. Let's see here. The Fixer, Mike. Mike, the Fixer, you were the guy that we were talking about, the fellow with the Island Files, and how Trump's not going to sign it even if it passes the Senate and the House. Is correct? That is you, right, Fixer Mike? Because I wanted to what do you call it? Circle back with you that I looked into it and you were 100% right. I thought that there was some other procedural mechanism that they were going to be using. But yeah, you are 100% correct on that, and I was showing my own ignorance there. So thank you very much for adding accuracy to the discourse. Okay, HDJDJ says, what are your thoughts on Dean and Parker, if you know them? I think anybody that is popular and young that talks about politics from a left-wing or progressive perspective, I think that they are doing a net positive. Like, we need to get more people involved and educated in politics, and especially if they are young people, then we're setting us up for positivity in future generations. I don't care for the debate format. Like, I don't care for, come on my live stream and I can prove you're an idiot style shows. I don't think that debates are productive. So yeah, I think I think everybody who's like a professional debater on the internet can probably adjust their settings a little bit and maybe be a little bit better for the discourse. But generally speaking, I like them. Let's see here. PS Arnold says, with people on the left and right waking up to people like Teal and these think tank peeps, what will think tanks and all this influence look like in the future? There are good think tanks and there are bad think tanks. I think where we get into trouble is where the people that are in government kind of like, give think tanks their legislative duties, where they don't actually dig into any of the things that the think tanks are telling them. Lobbying as well gives these think tanks a little bit more gas in the tank. So yeah, I don't want to just throw think tanks in the garbage entirely, because without think tanks, we wouldn't have great progressive organizations that are, digging into the data to prove that progressive policies work really well. Perchance says, what are your thoughts on Andy Bashir? I like Andy Bashir. The General says, what's your opinion on 50-year mortgage proposal? The 50-year mortgage proposal is another example of Republican policies that basically say to poor people, we are not going to make your life any easier, but what we will do is make your life harder in the long term, but maybe like a little bit easier in the short term. It is just, death from 1,000 paper cuts. It is, are we going to drown in 30 years, or are we going to drown in 20 years? Like, that is the nuts and bolts of all Republican policies. And so it's dumb, he's dumb, and it is a slap in the face to every working class and poor American. Alrighty, JP says, such sins, and you waited for an answer before asking another question. I apologize. Feel better. Let's see here. Alex Fontanilla says, do you think that Tara Reid is a liar? I don't know who Tara Reid is. Alrighty, let's see here. Ecuadorian baseball pitcher, good to see you again. I'm starting to give up hope on America and just focus on my nation. I've tried to have conversations like these, and MAGA just won't listen. I don't know what else to do. It's like trying to reach an old dog, new tricks. I don't know what else to do, Jarrett. I would just, Ecuadorian, if you're living, I don't know where you live. If you live in America, if you live in Ecuador, I would just say focus on where you're living. Focus on local, focus on statewide, focus on, Ecuador's government, if that's where you're living. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, and recognize that part of the work of trying to do positive things is giving yourself a break every now and again. Taking a break, watching a movie, reading a book, go hang out with friends, step away from things for a little while, and then you get to come back renewed and refreshed. Alrighty. JP says Tara Reid was Joe Biden's sexual misconduct allegation. Yeah, I don't know too much about it. Error 404 chat says the Democrats have no policies or solutions. That's not true. Error for chat. Now they want to fund big insurance to save the failed Obamacare disaster. No, that's not what Democrats want. Error for chat. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Alrighty. Don't Say Straight says, day 3 of calling out Jared for ignoring people who disprove his claim. I'm sure that you probably meant to say claim there. And Don't Say Straight, I have responded to all 3 of these days, so I don't really know what you're talking about. Tell me what you think I'm saying inaccurate. You have not provided any data or substance. Mike Green says, I have a friend who loves Candace Owens. Do you think she's a good person commentator? No, she's not a good person commentator. She's a little cuckoo bananas. Like, she has spent days, hours, weeks, months, whatever, trying to prove that the president of France's wife is a man. This is a conspiracy-pilled psychopath who is a full-on grifter and a liar. Alrighty. Brady says, what are your thoughts on Israel, not on the war currently, but them as a nation? For every nation, I am for the people that live there. The government of Israel, however, is guilty of doing fucking genocide, war crimes, humanitarian abominations. Like, we should not be supporting that government at all. Falling Box says, yes, local community-based solutions are the best chance we have. I think that we need to, also think nationally, but 100% getting involved in local politics is the move. Don't Say Straight. Still waiting for your answer. Don't Say Straight. It's almost like you're full of shit. Fletch Lives, again, good to see you again, says, don't hold back. Tell me how you really feel about her. The General says, you just want to follow. My follow, Jared. Thank you, the General. P.S. I appreciate it. Dan the Man says, thoughts on Trump's first year? It could not be going worse. It could not be going worse. Alrighty. Error 404 chat says, what healthcare policies are working that Democrats support? Well, there are people alive today because of the Affordable Care Act, people who would have been discriminated against for having pre-existing conditions. JP says, is asking, tell me about Israel a dog whistle? No, not necessarily. We got to get a little deeper into the weeds on Israel and AIPAC before I have to start calling that shit out. Justin Reimer says, thoughts on the 8 Dems voting for ending the shutdown? So it's complicated because I don't think that the Democrats should have ended the shutdown. And if they did agree to end the shutdown at some point, I don't think they should have done it when they did it, and I don't think they should have done it how they did it. But this is a complicated issue. And the thing that really fucking gets my goat, the thing that really fucking grinds my gears, is all the people out there who are making it seem like this was easy or this was simple. The people out there who are saying Democrats caved, they had a full house and they folded, they blew a 20-point lead. Unbelievable bullshit. Because a lot of Democratic senators, not necessarily the 8 that voted yes, some other ones potentially, have been saying to reporters, like, my constituents are calling me and saying, we were with you, but, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent if the government doesn't get turned back on. I am not going to be able to feed my children if the government doesn't get turned back on. So this is it's complicated and it's hard. Democrats, trying to operate in this political environment, they're trying to do the best they can with a pair of twos. And so 100%, I think they made a mistake in the way that they did it and when they did it. But I also think that, they're operating under an extremely high level of difficulty. And I think that deserves a little bit of grace. Particularly, I think we need to recognize that the reason why this was difficult for Democrats is because the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about Americans suffering. And they were increasing the suffering as a means of getting Democrats to reopen the government. Cutting SNAP benefits, firing federal workers, denying them back pay. They were canceling government-funded heat assistance programs in the middle of winter. That's the thing we should be pissed about. Not that Democrats didn't land the fucking triple axle without fucking slipping. You know what I mean? Alrighty. Let's see here. Okay. Error says 15 years, Obamacare with billions to insurance companies with huge increases and less care. Explain how this can be a success. So Error, The reason why it's a success, number one, is because before Obamacare, insurance companies could discriminate against people for having pre-existing conditions. So you could have cancer, and you can go to your insurance company and say, "Hey, I need chemotherapy. It's going to be really expensive. You guys have to pay for it because you're my insurance company." And they go, "Oh, well, actually, you had cancer before you signed up with us, so we're not going to treat you or give you any funding or anything like that." Additionally, healthcare costs are constantly going up. The rate that they are going up changes, though, and Obamacare slowed the rate at which they were going up. Error. And here's the thing that really bugs me, Error, is that I'm telling you these things and you have no follow-up questions. You just look for the next gotcha question, like acknowledge the things I'm telling you. I'm trying to teach you how to be a good person in this live stream. Brady says, I have a Mun comp tomorrow, the delegate of the U.S. in a debate about trafficking. Summarize current policy. I am not AI, Brady. I am not Chat GPT. I cannot do that for you. BB Fan says, did you see how Thune threw in stricter abortion penalties a backdoor to nationwide abortion? I did not see that. Is that in the Big Beautiful Bill? Is that in the continuing resolution? Mr. Farts a lot says that's like going to the ER when you're sick because you're getting more sick and they won't cover. I don't know what you mean by that, Mr. Farts a lot. John 868 says term limits. I'm for them. Jeffrey Shelton says could AOC run for president? Yes. B.S. Arnold says, but Americans voted for this. Isn't it against democracy to just shut the government down out of protest? So I think there's a difference between, actually, let's say this, B.S. Arnold. Americans voted for all of this. They voted for the Republicans and they voted for the Democrats. So because we have a split government, that means that the Republican Party doesn't get to do whatever the fuck they want. They get to do exactly what their seats in power allow them to do. And so shutting down the government out of protest is also what America voted for, in addition to, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and shit like that. But additionally, BS, I think this is really important to bring up, is that Trump and the Republican Party are currently doing things that are not allowed. They are either illegal or unconstitutional or against norms. They are ignoring court orders. They are lying under oath in Senate hearings and House hearings and shit like that. And that is not what Americans voted for. Anytime Donald Trump or the Republican Party do something that they did not explicitly campaign on, that is not something that America voted for. Bearded Grandma says, can I ask you a question? 100%. V-Trigger says, is there a possibility that more leftist members of the Democratic Party will split into a new party? I think it is. I think that would be folly, V-Triggered. I think it is smarter, and it's currently what is happening, to just replace current members of the Democratic Party with better people, with more progressive, more left-leaning people. It's already happening. I think we just need to continue doing that. Devin says, how many people did Biden deport in his 4 years? I don't know, Devin. Do you think it was too much or do you think it was too little? Liz says, who do you think is the most realistic pick for president in 28? Liz, I always punt on this question. I'm trying to get everybody laser focused on 26 and not on 28. Brady says, thoughts on the two-party system? If we want, I think that the two-party system has issues. But I also think that people put a lot of problems on the two-party system that are not the problem of the two-party system. Like, people will say, like, that's why the government is corrupt, is because of the two-party system. And I'm like, no, it's more like billionaires and campaign finance problems and Citizens United and shit like that. If we want to get away from the two-party system, we need ranked choice voting. Otherwise, third-party candidates can only be spoiler candidates. And the Republican Party is trying to kill ranked choice voting. They are trying to make it illegal federally. And so if you want to open up the political process to other parties, if you want to have the Working Families Party or the Libertarian Party actually have a chance, instead of just being spoiler candidates, then we need ranked choice voting. And in order to get there, you need to vote for Democrats. Alrighty. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Error says, why shouldn't healthy people be rewarded with being healthy with tax credits? I think that healthy people are rewarded for being healthy with not having to pay for medical care, right? Error says, why wouldn't it be better if the health insurance government funds go directly to the people than instead of the insurance Bureaucracy. Let's see here. Is there a reason why we can't just directly give payments to customers? I am off the top of my head, I would say if insurance companies know that Americans are getting subsidies for healthcare, then they will just increase the cost of their healthcare. If we are giving the subsidies directly to the insurance companies, we have a little bit more say in how they are pricing their insurance plans. That's just like one potential problem that had. Let's see here. Bearded Grandma says, I'm curious because of the Fourth Amendment. So is Trump's stance on immigration unconstitutional or constitutional? It's complicated, Bearded Grandma. Like the Constitution does give the president a lot of leeway in how to deal with immigration, but it does not give them, king-like powers. So like a lot of the things that he's doing are illegal or unconstitutional and regarding ICE and the concentration camps and the deportations and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot that he can do. Like the fact that he's made it virtually impossible to quote unquote come to America the right way by slashing asylum seekers and you know yeah, and just basically closing off the border to people that are trying to come in unless they're white and rich. That is something that he is able to do because of how much power the president has in immigration. Ready, just stuck says, why not use the current leverage against the companies? Do you think they'd give up $30 million paychecks? Why not use the current leverage against the companies? Do you think they give up? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Discuss. Can you tell me a little bit more? Brady says, how do I get into the kind of thing you're doing? I love politics and want to pursue a career like yours. So Brady, let me break something down for you real quick. If you want to do political live streaming, go for it, go crazy. But you should not think about this like a career. I have been making content for a long time. And because of all the content that I made, I started live streaming with over 100,000 followers on TikTok and videos that had massed, tens of millions of views and millions of likes. And I make about $40 a month doing this. So I'm at an extremely. I started with a leg up. And I am not even close to making a living doing this. This is not my main job. I'm a touring stand-up comedian. So yeah, if you are, do it because you want to do it, not because you think it's lucrative. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I like that you called me Unk. That's pretty cool. V Triggered says, how do you feel about significantly streamlining the process for citizenship? I'm for it. The Trump administration has fired asylum judges and immigration judges. We need the fucking opposite. We need more immigration judges and asylum judges. Alrighty. Let's see here. Bearded Grandma says, should women's choice be solely a woman's vote? Should men not be involved regarding this topic? That's a really good question. I mean, the current system that we have is based on men being mostly in control of things, I can see some issues with eliminating men's input on things like bodily autonomy, like if yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Yeah, does a guy have zero rights to a fetus that is in a woman's body? Like it is her body, and I am pro-choice. But yeah, does the man have zero rights? I don't know. That's a really interesting question. My gut is telling me that we cannot say definitively that. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. You stumped me. Honestly, I gotta read a little bit more about that, my guy. Sorry about that. Okay, Austin says, is it true that Trump was an FBI informant in regard to the fellow with the island? I feel that's relevant with the news today. No, he was not a government informant. He was an enjoyer of all of the things that the fellow with the island was bringing to the table. Bryson says, what if the House was a rep from every job and Senate was by lottery? What if the House was a representative from every job? So like one carpenter, one electrician. We're doing like the Noah's Ark version of staffing the House with like 2 of every occupation. Is that what you're saying? It's an interesting idea. I just think that there's too many types of jobs to be completely represented in that kind of a system. Let's see here. Sunshine Wildflower says possession is 99% of the law. Question mark. I mean, that's what I hear. All right, did that one already. JE says men aren't in control. There are more women voters. Okay, JE, but there are more men in positions of power. Okay. Scrolling down to the bottom. Rosalind, good to see you. Crazy Monsoon says, Bull, what are you referring to, Crazy Monsoon? Observing the Madness says, while they cheer on the torture of human beings in this country. Is that the second part of a sentence? Observing the Madness? Let's see here. Haha, yes. Well, I don't see this as the first part. There are doctors setting up insurance-free clinics across the country while they cheer on the torture of human beings in this country. Oh, interesting. Crazy Monsoon says troubles involved with Epstein in essaying the young girls. That's what you are saying, that you agree with that, right, Crazy Monsoon? You're not saying that he was not essaying the young girls, if I'm getting your meaning correctly. Alrighty. Let's see here. Hey, I got good news for you, JP. JP Real, my friend. That was my first comment. Pamela says, no, he's friendly. I don't know what you're talking about, guys. Right. Questions have kind of slowed down a little bit, so get in your questions, everybody, and we can get to answering them. R. Ben says, I guess Russia is over. No, Russia is not over. Neither of those are over. Those are both still massive scandals. Carbine says, what do you want for Christmas? You know, I told my wife this yesterday. I don't want any gifts. I don't want to put money into this economy. You know, money that is going into this economy is what do you call it? Yeah, I don't like getting things. So I was asking my wife if it was okay for me to request that I get no gifts, and she said no. She says it would be weird if I got no guests. So now I guess I'm gonna get something. You know, JP Real, congratulations, you've been promoted. All right, Error. JP is holding your future in his hands. If JP says you gotta go, you gotta go. So you gotta start being nicer to him. Alrighty. R. Ben says, so you're listening to Rosie O'Donnell, don't spend any money. I don't generally like getting stuff. You know, like if I need something, then I'll go get it. Mama Dev says we were boycotting the holidays. I think you should. I think, spending money is power, you know? Let's see here. Error says the massive scandal is the conspiracy against Trump's rights. We have grand jury impaneled in Florida. Lots of indictments coming in January. Error, I gotta be honest, man. You're so deep in the sauce right now that I don't know if anything I say is ever going to affect you. You know, it's like there's so many wrong things with what you just said. You know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, man. Ask a question. Alrighty. Let's see here. Rambo says, you like communists, ... That's not a question, Rambo. Do you have a question? Let's see here. Okay. Chris says, give bucket list gifts. Ooh, that's interesting. Rambo says, what are you talking about, Russia? Just like everything else has been proven wrong, my guy. The Russia hoax was not proven wrong. Did you read the Mueller report, Rambo? Observing the Madness says, oh, it's because I used the P file term. It's blocking the comment. Yeah, 100%. Alrighty. Error says, you're entitled to your opinions, not entitled to your own facts. Yes, same comment, but back at you. And ask a question. Error. Corporal Fly says, where the Democrats go from here after this month's win. So the Democrats are going to do what the Democrats do, you know, and it is up to us as citizens to both be in touch with them, to let them know what our priorities are, but we also need to be spreading the message of the platform of the Democratic Party, the damage of the Republican Party, the corruption of Donald Trump. Like, we need to be the messengers. The information environment is skewed in favor of the Republican Party. Like, they get more from the media and from social media. And so the only advantage that we have on the left is numbers of people. So we have to be doing that work. Mark, hello from Hungary. Hope you're doing good. Ecuadorian says these MAGA supporters are only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you when the chips are down. These civilized people will eat each other. Potentially, man. I don't know. Let's see here. Rambo says, so you watch mainstream media 24/7 and believe the enemy of the state. So mainstream media is not the enemy of the state, Rambo. And no, I don't watch news on television. I read. Rambo says, MAGA didn't cry about SNAP benefits. There were 100% MAGA voters on SNAP benefits who were going to starve because Trump was cutting SNAP benefits. Rambo says, yes, you do. I mean, you can't. What are you sneaking? You watching me through my fucking window, Rambo? Ask a question, or I'm gonna boot you. Ready. Rambo says, you love mainstream media and believe everything you are told. No, but your mom loves my dick and she believes everything that I tell her to do. David Douglas says, Senate Democrats who voted down the shutdown without extending affordable aircraft subsidies took 1/3 of airline PAC money. You know, I've heard about this, David. I need to look into a little bit more. I think that it is possible that airline PAC money influenced Democrats in voting to reopen the government. But I also think that we cannot ignore the fact that airlines are essential, and being able to use planes is something that many Americans rely upon. And so it's not nothing to throw the airline industry under the bus. Like, yes, 100%, they fucking suck, but you know, something's got to be done, right? People that need to work for their job, people that need to fly across the country to see sick relatives or some shit like that, you know? Mama Dev says, please remember the economic blackout dates. Yes, please do. MAGA says, MAGA thinks everyone acts and does like they do. Fletch Lives Again says, how do the partial EP file releases like this morning's worked? Who decides what and when and if? That is an excellent question, Fletch Lives. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. Because yeah, that was my thinking exactly when I saw that. I was like, how come we have one email? what is the protocol for one email? You know. Mac Daddy Shrimp says thoughts on Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney, I think is I think that she is suffering from like fame disease. Some people, I think that if you're becoming like a successful actor or something like that, they should teach you how to be famous, because it can really fuck with your brain. You know, I've seen the entertainment industry like chew up and spit people out so hard. And Sydney Sweeney is obviously like a very beautiful girl. And if you watch like the second season of Euphoria, like you will not see better acting than fucking Sydney Sweeney's character slowly losing her fucking mind in a way that is both realistic and fucking hilarious. But you know, she fucking leaned a little too far over on her skis, and now she's just fucking, yeah, she's just fucking cashing out, you know? And I also think that it's weird that she is just like, you know, not good at hiding her weird right-wing ideology, you know? And so if America wants to not go see her movies because of those ideologies, then I think that that is their right to do. And that is 100% how I feel about that as well. All right, John Selfridge, good to see you again. John Selfridge is asking, what are the dates of the economic blackout for anybody that wants to look that up? And we met my gift goal on TikTok. Thank you so much, everybody. Muzz King, you're a hero for helping me reach my gift goal. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much. Setting up a new goal. I heard that that's good for the algorithm. That's why I do it. Fantastic. All right, let's get some questions. David Douglas says Sweeney is jumping to the Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain, John Voight end of the pool prematurely. I mean, there's actors who are good but psychotic, like John Voight and Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges? No. Who am I thinking of? Jeff Daniels? Who's the guy who, not the Big Lebowski? I love him. That's Jeff Bridges. There's the other guy whose son is on The Boys. That guy fucking sucks, you know? But John Voight's a good actor. That guy's a good actor. Like, can't fucking deny that. They're just bananas. But like Dean Cain, Dean Cain and Kevin Sorbo, yeah, they're not bringing anything to the table, you know? Observing the Madness says the right is beating on protesters. Is that currently happening? Observing the Madness? Dennis Quaid, thank you very much. I don't know why I thought his name was Jeff. I think he looks like a Jeff. Kimberlina says the guy from Christmas Vacation, Cousins Eddie. The right is calling for the deportation of U.S. citizens. Alrighty, let's see here. Quaid, thank you very much, everybody. All right, we're still waiting on the dates of the economic blackout. If anybody wants to supply that. Error chat says the grand jury will consider whether to bring criminal charges against top Democratic figures that Davis claims have colluded over the last decade to impede Trump, beginning with the investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election through the criminal cases against the president. How is this not true? Now, I'm sure that that is true, but here's the thing. Like, there's a difference between somebody in the Department of Justice following the data and, bringing about charges because a crime was committed, and what's going on right here, which is the Trump administration telling the DOJ, go indict those people because I don't like them. And we know this to be true, Error, and please, God, look into this, or send me an email or something like this, because I would love to see your reaction to actual data. There are career prosecutors who were fired by the Trump administration because they refused to engage in these sham investigations and sham indictments. So if career prosecutors who are completely bipartisan are telling you there's nothing here and I'm a Republican, I'm on your side, and then they fire that person, then get a different lawyer to fucking do it, what does that tell you, man? Does it tell you there's any legitimacy to these claims at all? Fletch Lives Again says actors by percentage seem more cray-cray than regular peeps. I mean, in working in arts and entertainment, no matter what area you're in, like, there's definitely something interesting going on there. Especially if you are if you're going into an industry that is specifically fame driven, like being an actor. Alrighty. Error says, I thought Democrats believed in due process. Wow, so we're just ignoring everything I say. Error 404 chat. Like, do you want to acknowledge the fact that Pam Bondi is bringing charges just based on who Trump doesn't like, as opposed to what the evidence is deciding? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Error 404 chat? You said career prosecutors like Comey's daughter? No, other ones. Error 404 chat. Is that all you've got? Is that? Because there are other prosecutors who were let go. Cameron says, what about Bofa? Both these nuts, Cameron? Is that what you're asking about? Israel Franco says, what are your thoughts on the amendments? Did the Dems not read them? So I have heard people sort of like whispering about this, Israel Franco. I haven't seen any substantive reporting on it yet. So let me look into it. Send me a DM to remind me or something. Otherwise, I might forget. But yeah, I don't know how much of this is real and how much of this is just internet nonsense. Tink 19651 says the dates of the economic blackout are November 25th to December 2nd. John Selfridge, that is when the dates are. I hope you are still here. All right, Error for chat. Yeah, still waiting on your nonsense. Okay, Rambo says, I'm not a bot, and if you think so, are you brainwashed? No, I am not brainwashed, Rambo. Have you responded to anything that I said, Rambo, or are you literally just here making up nonsense? Rob says, you mean like making a campaign promise that you would indict Trump? So, Rob, there's a difference between the attorney general that was running on indicting Donald Trump. And the difference is that Trump did all of his crimes out in the open, so we saw him doing crimes. And the only reason why a rich person is not indicted for crimes that they do out in the open is because they're rich and powerful. And so what she was communicating to the people of New York was that she is not going to be one of those rich people that rolls over. She's not going to be one of those people that rolls over for the rich. Carbine says, what about James Wood? Yeah, James Woods can fucking go eat a dick. That dude fucking sucks. Shork says, do you think churches should be taxed if they're involved in politics? 100%. Juan says, innocent on all 34, buddy. No, opposite. He was literally found guilty on all 34. What are you talking about, my guy? Rambo says, so explain why you hate Republicans. So I don't hate Republican voters, Rambo, and I don't hate anybody, but I cannot ignore the fact that the Republican Party is toxic. They are violent extremists who are passing legislation to create a more fascist government. They are breaking the law. They are not upholding their oath to the Constitution. They are allowing massive amounts of corruption, grift, and lawlessness, barbaric actions that mirror those that the Germans took during the 1940s. That is why I don't like Republican politicians and Republican commentators like Ben Shapiro and Alex Jones and shit like that. Alrighty. Rambo says, and Obama didn't. Yeah, Obama didn't, Rambo. Obama did not. Obama didn't have a cryptocurrency. Obama didn't build concentration camps. Obama didn't try to start a war with Venezuela. Obama didn't deport citizens and veterans and Native Americans and hold people in custody without any due process whatsoever. Rambo, I'm getting a little heated. I need to take things down a little bit. When you say other career Democratic prosecutors, you should add a qualifier or a rhino. I hate Trump lawyers. Let's be honest, Jarrett. So what you're doing, Error, and please acknowledge this, is you are basically saying that anybody who disagrees with Trump is biased against Trump. If Donald Trump shot your dad and you got angry at him for shooting your dad, people like you would then call you a rhino or would call you a never Trumper to disqualify the things that you are saying. But there are a lot of people who have no political ideology who have been let go or fired by the Trump administration just because they would not do illegal shit that Donald Trump told them to do. And I know that I'm talking to a fucking brick wall here because a regular person would be like, oh, send me examples, send me data or some shit like that. But instead, you just move on to the next bullshit talking point. Rambo says, you getting angry because you have zero arguments besides mainstream media talking points. Rambo, if you do not ask another question, if you ever say another statement, Rambo, I'm booting you because all you're doing is trying to start fights, and that is not what's going on here. And 5R says, but what's the point of Trump doing this if he could be found accountable after his term? So his goal, N5, is to die while president. And if that means 3 terms, 4 terms, 5 terms, however long he's going to be on a fucking, ventilator or CPAP machine or fucking whatever, that is his plan. His plan is, if he isn't able to do that, that he wants to be able to use his money, power, connections, blackmail, the fact that he sat 3 Supreme Court justices and a bunch of other extremist judges to either run cover and delay or find a loophole to escape all accountability for the things that he is doing. He has a lot of cover for the things that he's doing during this administration because of the immunity decision that the Supreme Court made during the Biden administration, saying that presidents are immune from legal consequences for laws that they might break while they're in office, so long as they are doing it for official government business, which is obviously a fucking psychotic Supreme Court decision, and those Supreme Court justices should be impeached, if not, if only for that. You know what I mean? Rambo says, so here's my question. You hate so hard you can't see both sides, huh? No, that's not true at all, Rambo. All right. Bryce Burdick says, this is rage baits in a nice tone. I don't think that is what I'm doing. Rambo says, you can threaten comments because you can't understand discussion. Congratulations, Rambo. You were warned, and now you're out of here. V.E. Johnson says, so Biden wasn't corrupt at all. At least Trump was rich going in. They have not found any evidence of corruption in the Biden administration. Whoever asked that question, V. Johnson. There is evidence that the Biden team hid his mental decline from Democrats, the Democratic Party, and the American people, but there is no evidence that he ever used the office to enrich himself or his family. And we know that Hunter Biden was throwing his dad's name around to get like lucrative contracts, but there was no straight, direct quid pro quo corruption the way that the Trump administration is. Like, Don Jr. is invested in a drone company that Donald Trump just gave a massive military contract. He basically just gave millions of dollars in taxpayer money to his son. That never happened. Nothing like that ever happened during the Biden administration. There is zero evidence of that. Alrighty. Let's see here. Muzz King says Rambo should have been booted 30 minutes ago. I'm feeling generous. Like, I'm still letting Error, say his fucking bullshit over there. Israel Franco says, do you think Supreme Court judges will be impeached or will they be expanded in the next cycle? I think it depends entirely on how many seats Democrats get in the Senate. If they get 65 seats, which would be a very powerful showing for reforming the court, then we're adding seats, But they would need more than 67 seats to impeach justices because you would need every single one of those Democrats, and it's very likely, I don't want to say very likely, it's possible that not every Democrat would be on board with impeaching a Supreme Court justice for whatever reason. Jack says 6'7". Hell yeah. I'm old, but I know what that is. Jesco says, how do you see the outcome of the fellow with the Island Files release affect the future of the Republican Party? There's people like Error for Chat over here who's like, doesn't matter what the data says. It's all fake. It's all lies. And they're not going to believe no matter how much data you give them. But there are a lot of people out there who are really heavily invested in this, who would generally be like on board with Donald Trump. And so I think we're going to see, the more information that comes out about his relationship with the fellow with the island, I think we're going to start seeing some of his support being shaved down around the edges. So, let's say hypothetically that he has got an immovable 35% approval rating, just because that goes to people that are deeply in the MAGA movement. Maybe we'll see that go down to like 32 or 31 or something like that. That's my guess, and it is literally a guess. Like, nobody knows this information for serious. David Douglas says, should they end the filibuster? Yes, they should. If it happens under the Trump administration, it will be very difficult to fight the Trump administration because they will use the filibuster being gone to pass laws to make it harder for us to fight them. They're going to pass laws against protesting and saying liberal shit on the internet and voting for Democrats. Yeah, they're going to make life a lot harder for us, and it's going to mean us fighting a lot harder. And I don't think that they're going to, because I think that the Republicans in the Senate the Republicans in the Senate, a lot of them want to have an excuse to not do all the crazy shit that Trump tells them to do. So I think it's unlikely that we get rid of it during the Trump administration. But I think that the next Democratic administration we have, we should 100% get rid of the filibuster. User a bunch of numbers says, why didn't Democrats release the files when they were in office? The reason why is because the Republican Party was blocking it. There were 3 attempts by the Democratic Party to release the fellow with the Island Files, one in 2019, one in 2020, and one in 2023. And the only reason why they were not released is because they were, number one, blocked by Republicans in the Senate, or number 2, the files were in the hands of the FBI director named Christopher Wray, who was a Republican, who was sat by Donald Trump. There you go. Trump's appointment FBI director. Exactly. Jesco says, do you think there will be operations inside Venezuela? I am worried because it does seem like that is what the Trump administration is moving towards. Alrighty. Error 404 chat says, as I said in the beginning, Jarrett will ban speech he doesn't agree with or someone challenges him, and he is wrong. Keeper watching, folks. Yeah, no, you're wrong, Error for Chats. There's a difference between somebody modding their live stream because people are being toxic and disruptive and silencing dissent. There are lots of people in my channel. Lots of regulars disagree with me all the time. I don't block any of them because they're not toxic. And 5 says, also, if they were found guilty of war crimes, wouldn't it be Trump? Or would it just be Trump or his entire administration? It would be everybody that was involved in those decisions. Trump has some cover. Pete Hegseth does not have any cover. Kimberlina says, has Trump heard about release of emails? Yeah, the fucking email scandal is taking on a whole different light now, isn't it? V-Trigger says, at what point does the rest of the world or the UN turn against this government and in turn the US? I mean, it is, I think, slowly happening, but, America is still very powerful, even as they are becoming a completely unreliable trading partner and ally for most of the world. And so we're starting to see, things break apart, but it's going to take a long time. And there might even be a solid bottom to that, where so long as America has this incredibly powerful military and massive economy, there's just like a certain amount of support that they can always count on. Right, Stevie says, being in the files doesn't mean he did anything wrong. Yeah, but he most likely did, Stevie. Just based on what we know about him as a human being and concurrent reporting, it is very likely. Like, why would he, give a sweetheart deal to Ghislaine Maxwell of move her to a nicer prison and give her a puppy to play with and be considering a pardon for her if he didn't have anything to hide? Stevie says, most likely it's all that libs have. No, it's not all that libs have. It's just one of the things that we have, Stevie. Do you have a question, or are you just here to troll, Stevie? Because if you don't ask a question, I'm going to boot you. Jason Church says, we are being made a pariah on the world stage for not good reasons. That is accurate. Alrighty, David Douglas says, every president should stand trial at The Hague after they are out of office for crimes committed. That's a really interesting idea, David Douglas. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you're president and you commit crimes while you're in office, you should be held accountable for those crimes. End of story. Republican, Democrat, everything. Ready. Okay. Aaron Pearman says because Maxwell hadn't been to court either, that's another reason they weren't released under Biden. I don't know if that's true, Aaron. Or has she when was she sentenced? I thought that happened during the Biden administration, right? Ready. Let's see here. Marty D says CNN versus Fox News, are they contributing to polarization? So CNN is different than Fox News. And I know that there are people out there who will be the both sides people who will say that, that CNN is just the left's version of Fox News, but that is inaccurate. Fox News is right-wing propaganda media. CNN is trying to be objective. What they end up being is a little center-right, because in trying to be objective and trying to appear bipartisan, what they end up doing is overhyping negative stories about Democrats and underhyping negative stories about Republicans. Politicians, of course, I'm talking about, not individual citizens. So I would say that Fox News is intimately involved in the divisiveness. I do not believe that CNN is. I also don't watch a ton of CNN, so maybe there's shit on there that is worse than the clips that I have seen. But I know about Fox News. Like, I know how deep they go in on trans people and culture war issues just so that they can get people distracted and not focused on the billionaire class that's fucking us all over. Blake says CNN is the exact same thing as Fox, LOL. No, it's not. V triggers, I can't believe people think CNN is left wing now, LMAO. For real. Let's see here. JP says, didn't you tour with a comic nicknamed Solid Bottom? Yeah, that guy was hilarious. Israel Franco says, isn't Fox News and entertainment TV only, not news? I don't know. I've heard kind of like a little bits of pieces here and there about how they have to like reclassify themselves so that they're not like legally liable for bullshit that they say. I don't know if that's true though. I haven't seen anything definitive on that. N5R says, is Trump really giving out money to all these people, like $2,000 per taxpayer and for air traffic controllers? The thing about Trump is he has the brain of a child. So yes, it is possible that he thinks that he can buy back favorability with America by sending everybody $2,000. That would obviously be, very detrimental to things like inflation and cost of living and the deficit, which has already spiraled out of control because of the Trump administration, both first and second. So yeah, it's possible. I think that there are too many people in his administration who don't want to do that for him to actually do that. But I could be wrong about that. Alrighty. Juliet says, Fox argued in court that they were not factual news as a defense. Yes, that I do know is accurate, Juliet. But I don't know if they're like, classified with the, FCC as an entertainment channel versus as a news channel. Kimberlina says, he said like 20 million people. He thinks there are only 20 million low and middle class income people in America. Well, he's not really a details person. Shork says, what if the $2,000 is to turn the people against SCOTUS if they rule against his tariffs? I think that's kind of a bank shot, Shork. Like, I think there's easier ways for him to, incite his base to violence against the Supreme Court justices. Kathy Quixote says they have to use that defense. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Delano says, at what point do we start calling right-wing violence state-endorsed? What traits are required? We're probably in that gray area right now, Delano, because Donald Trump has pardoned people who have done violence for him. So, yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of... I mean, we could also describe ICE that way as well. Alrighty. John Abbott says cable programming like Fox, CNN, etc. don't have legal classifications for content type. Thank you, John Abbott. That is the clarity that I was looking for. That is only applicable to public broadcast programming. Ecuadorian baseball patron says, at this point, I think Democrats, every time we vote down a Republican bill, we should raise the red Jolly Roger to celebrate. That's pretty fun. John Abbott says, CNN's crime against the American public is saying Washington Trump administration. That is also accurate. Alrighty, let's see here. All right, everybody. We are at an hour. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I appreciate all the questions and the likes and the support and everything. Sorry that I got so deep in with the haters today, but I don't know. I thought maybe there was work to be done there, but maybe I was just wasting my breath. If there are any questions that you guys have that I was not able to get to on this live stream or anything that comes up other times, do not be shy about reaching out. I am happy to respond to messages, DMs, emails on my Discord channel, reaching out. You know, like I want to be a resource for everybody to get more involved, more informed. So if there are things that I can do to help you get you more inside of this tent, then I want to be that resource for you. So use me and abuse me, use me until you are all, use me until I am all used up. The Discord is one of my favorite resources, as not only is it a great way to get in touch, but it is also a great way for, you know, being part of a community of like-minded individuals. And also there's recommendations on there for books and podcasts. And you can also get in touch with me that way as well. Shout out to my patrons, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, and Patrick, and to my super fans, Susie, Sean, Dan, and Hot Sauce. If you guys want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. I know that we are all struggling financially, but if you want to, you can. I have a Patreon you can join for as little as $1 a month. I have a store that you can buy things from. Both of those you can find on my website. Link is in the bio. And you can also send gifts and become super fans on TikTok and Twitch and YouTube. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can send me a sub for free on Twitch, and it costs you nothing, but I get $2, and every little bit helps. And let's see here. What else do we like to talk about? Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And just lastly, my heartfelt plea that you all do the work, because unless we do the work, we are fucked. Austin Slater says, why is Trump the greatest president of all time? He is not, Austin. Are you being sarcastic? Remy says, would you become a Trump supporter if this is out the 2000? Absolutely not. No. He cannot buy me off. And even if he could, it would not be for $2,000. Luma Galaxy says, are you with the left or the right? The left. Crazy Monsoon says, something is triggered. The haters sitting at wonder what. Yeah, Crazy Monsoon. Was it because a dude who used to own an island and a plane that the president used to go to all the time? Was there an email that was released about that dude? Who knows? Alrighty. John Selfridge, when are you coming back to Oklahoma City? Unfortunately, I don't think anytime in the near future. So my wife and I are having a baby. We're expecting in May. My boss, Steve, who I tour with, he's having a baby next year also. And our schedules do not line up baby-wise, which means that I am not available to go on the road when he is available to go on the road, and he is not available to go on the road when I am available to go on the road. So the next time I go on tour is not for over a year away, unfortunately. And that tour, I believe, is mainly the West Coast. I think we're dipping a little bit into New Mexico and Arizona. As soon as those dates are announced, you will find them on my website. But those things tend not to get confirmed until a couple of months out. So while I do know that it will be states like California and Nevada and New Mexico, when and where specifically is still up in the air. David Douglas is having a baby in this healthcare system. I mean, it's precarious, but what are we going to do? We're going to let the Trump administration decide that me and my wife, who've been wanting to have a baby for a long time, are just like not going to. You know, it's like, fuck those guys. I am deciding to live hopeful, you know. Thank you, JP. I don't know if you're still here. Right. Kimberlina says, can you make a pit stop in Chicago? I mean, listen, when 27 rolls around, I will probably have a much more normal touring schedule. And so it is very likely that I visit all of your states, you know? Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you guys saying all the nice things. It's just nice being able to tell people that we're pregnant, because you're not allowed to tell anybody for the first like 3 months, you know? And so all my friends who know that I'm a big gardener, you know, I had to pretend like I wasn't doing it because I had to pretend like we were still trying, you know? And meanwhile, I was home fucking gardening like crazy. Righty. Simply Don says, let us know if you get that $5,000 check from Trump after having the baby. Oh, yeah, that'll be great. You know, I can't wait to fucking give that to Indivisible or Run for Something or Vote Save America. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for all your questions and your support and your gifts and your comments. Thank you very much to, and everybody say congratulations to my new mod, JP12X Real, who is going to be enforcing on Twitch going forward for, you know, to keep people like Error 404 from, you know, from infecting my live stream and raising my ire. Be good to each other. Do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.